Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Hirsch, founder and CEO of Hirsch & Associates, and I'm here with Zev Mandelbaum, President and CEO of Altree Developments, and Jordan DeBrincat, Vice President of Altree Developments. We're here tonight to talk about the Toronto luxury market and how it relates to this exciting project, Forest Hill Private Residences. And for our first topic tonight, let's talk about the Toronto luxury real estate market. You know, I think all of us have seen drastic changes in a positive way in the real estate market over the last few years. And it's a topic that no matter what dinner you go to, no matter who you're with, it's always something that comes up in conversation. So Zev, what are your thoughts on
Well, it's funny
market?
you should say over dinner because even tonight at a point, in fact, I'm going to have dinner at a luxury condo with somebody. So now the conversations are starting to happen more in these luxury condos, and almost all the time I'm going to someone else's condo for dinner to discuss the market or in general. We're seeing a big shift. We're seeing a very, very big shift of people moving into condominiums that are more upscale. For the longest time, Toronto really had a stable commoditized market. You know, you had really good buildings and they were fantastic, but there was a very limited supply of upscale buildings that are unique in nature. And that is still the case. But you're starting to see a lot more of these things pop up. You're seeing a lot more demand for luxury condominiums. In the Forest Hill private residences, you know, one of the biggest demand was large units because of the upscale nature of it. And we're seeing a big shift in the demographic of Toronto towards condominiums, including my own parents.
And I think, Jordan, we always talk about this, is when you go to somewhere like New York, even Miami, you know, luxuries, they already have it, they've established it, and it's something that we still haven't tapped into yet in Toronto, and I think really what we're trying to achieve here at Forest Hill Private Residences.
Absolutely, and I couldn't echo Zev's thoughts more. There has been a little bit of a shift in terms of the way people are looking at real estate. There is zero question about the fact that Toronto and Canada as a whole is a really safe real estate market, and I think it's brought a lot more buyers, whether it be international, whether it be from other provinces throughout Canada, coming towards Toronto. And one of the things that we don't have here is we don't really have that luxury aspect. There's a few projects that you see throughout the city, but it's not really something that's, you don't think of Toronto, you don't think of luxury. So I think there was a little bit of an area where there is a market where we could tap into, and that's one of the things that we talked about so many times when we were designing Forest Hill Private Residences and really thinking about what does Toronto need, what do luxury purchasers in Toronto are looking for, and how do we incorporate that into a building in a neighborhood that is already established like Forest Hill.
And it's funny you say that, because I was watching an economic speaker recently talking that actually the most of our immigration has been throughout Canada coming to Toronto. So a lot of other people from other provinces are coming to the city, and it's funny because even our buyer demographic here at Forest Hill Private Residence, we've had couples from other provinces coming because their kids are here. Their kids have set their roots here. They have their children, their grandkids here. They want to be close to them.
Absolutely.
And I think we're really seeing a big shift in that demographic, that really they want convenience. It's all about convenience and services, and not having to, to walk outside your door and not having to worry about anything.
And we've kind of seen Toronto become a world-class city. 10 years ago, Toronto was very small. If you remember, Yorkville back then was practically nothing. And yet now today we're seeing Toronto as a forefront, as a four-class city, a forefront, right up there with Tokyo, London, New York, and of course, Miami. You're starting to see that there, and you're starting to see people realize that Toronto has that element of luxury. We have always said it, and especially when we're designing this project. In New York, you think Park Avenue, 432 Park Avenue. You think buildings like that. You think buildings where, you're walking on Fifth Avenue. And in Toronto, when you think luxury, most people think the most expensive homes are in Forest Hill and Rosedale. And that's what our luxury market really is. And to have buildings that are unique is very important to those neighborhoods, because those neighborhoods do have boomer generations that are doing it. And we're seeing it all throughout Toronto, as the demographics of Toronto that are living in condominiums is changing. It's no longer the young hippie millennials that are living in condos. It's now all ages and all demographics.
And I think to your point of Forest Hill is a lot of the buyers, they look at their homes that have now gone up substantially in terms of value, that they can sell and go into a condominium and still be in a luxury condominium and still be within their neighborhood. And I think we've seen that with a lot of our buyers. It's so important because they don't want to leave. This is where their family is. This is where their roots are. This is where their grandkids are. And they don't necessarily want to go anywhere else. And there really isn't very many options for a condominium in Forest Hill.
And I think when you think about neighborhoods in Toronto and you talk about them internationally, one of the things is even when you say Forest Hill, someone who lives in, Dubai or in Europe, they know Forest Hill's in Toronto. So it's almost as if you don't have to say Forest Hill, Toronto, Canada. It's you talk about Forest Hill and everyone's like, oh yeah, that's in Canada. Yeah. It goes to show internationally when you have a neighborhood that is as well known as Forest Hill that, it is internationally recognized. And then you come to the neighborhood and you understand why, because it is so established. So for people who are, let's say, are wanting to downsize, or as you mentioned, people who have kids or have grandkids and they want to stay in the area, having a landmark project just like Forest Hill Private Residences in a neighborhood like Forest Hill is so crucial, because you don't have very many of those landmarks in a city that's outside of a city. Forest Hill is in the city, but it's not the hustle and bustle of the downtown core. And I think that's what makes the characteristics of the neighborhood so enticing to a lot of people, and it really does feel like home.
Absolutely. If I would say this is like the Upper West Side of New York, right? Where maybe it's a little quieter because you're facing Central Park, but the Upper West Side is the Upper West Side, right? My sister, who's for many years lived on the Upper West Side, I see a lot of similarities there. You see the greenery, you see the quiet, you see the park, and yet it's so well known and so established, right? But talking about luxury as a whole in Toronto, I mean, we're seeing a whole new world coming to Toronto, where we're seeing multiple different levels of buildings in Toronto. And luxury is just getting off the ground. And if you look at this, stratospheric pricing that you see in New York or Miami for penthouses or luxury buildings, I mean, it pales in comparison, Toronto, compared to those kind of numbers. But we're just starting to see that become an actual market. And you've mentioned many times, Karen, in the last year, the highest outperforming numbers in real estate in Toronto has been luxury real estate more than any other class.
Actually, just recently they spoke about for February 2022, the over $4 million sales in condominiums was up 188%. Wow. That's a massive number, and that's just showing that more and more people are recognizing that they want that convenience of condominium living. And to touch on that, it's not just, downsizers or people who, retirees. We're seeing a lot of young professionals who don't have kids, who have chosen not to have kids. They're career oriented, and they want the luxury lifestyle. They want the conveniences of all the services that, a place like Forest Hill Private Residences offers. And that's become a really big trend now as well in the marketplace.
I mean, that's a pretty incredible number to say, over $4 million has had such a leap and bound in the market. I mean, that was unheard of 10 years ago, and yet you're seeing luxury real estate and condos go up unbelievable, because that class of people have the wealth, and to them, they want that unit, and that unit is unique. And I think that's an important point here, is that it is unique. There aren't that many of them, and there can never be that many of them.
And they're not, that class of buyers is not as price sensitive. So they're very specific about what they want, and they will pay for what they want. And they will look at it and they will compare it, and they'll see the value in having all the amenities and all the conveniences and all these extra, these extra lifestyle choices that they want to enjoy at their fingertips.
I think when you're looking at also luxury, you're not just talking about a beautiful countertop or the top-notch tiles. Obviously that comes without saying. It's about the experience. And I really think that's what luxury is. And I think people think it's wrong when they look at luxury and they think, okay, well, we're looking at $10,000 a linear foot, square foot for any type of countertop. Obviously those things come without saying, but it's about the experience. It's about how you feel when you walk in your door. It's about the concierge knowing you by name. It's about having those services available to you so you can really focus on the things that matter to you in life. And obviously over the last 2 years, that's what everyone's looking at doing, is really focusing on things that matter to them and what makes them happy, right? And as a developer, being able to provide that type of development projects such as Forest Hill Private Residence, it's such a pleasure and it's an honor for us to be able to do that, because we're really embodying that lifestyle of really making people focus on what's important to them, and that's really what life's all about.
And I think having Forest Hill Private Residences with a 2 Forest Hill Road address really means something. I mean, everyone knows, and we spoke about this earlier, that Forest Hill around the world is a renowned neighborhood in Toronto. And I think it's very important because there's very few spots, and this really is the last place to build in Forest Hill with that Forest Hill address.
When you look at luxury in Toronto and you see where the projects are located, you're looking at projects that may not necessarily be a mid-rise. You can have some projects downtown and they're high rises. And while they have those luxury services, they don't really have what we have to offer at Forest Hill Private Residences. The idea behind having a 9-story boutique building, I think that speaks to a different caliber of purchaser. We see it from people who have bought already. They don't want to live in a high rise. They like the fact that it's 9 stories, it's shorter to travel on the elevator with, there's less people. It's just more of a easier transition when you're coming from a low-rise home and downsizing.
I know we've seen a lot of that, and you look at Toronto, we said that, there is a luxury market coming into Toronto, but in luxury there's 2 different types of luxury, right? There's the high-rise luxury, where you have a beautiful tower that's soaring high and has crazy finishes and crazy amenities, but it really is a tower type living. And you're still waiting and coming down, and you're still, just a speck in the sky. But then there's that intimate lifestyle. The lifestyle that makes you feel at home, that makes you feel intimate, that makes you feel, secure, makes you feel comfortable with your neighbors. And that is the boutique lifestyle, the idea of boutique buildings that are not high, where your unit is unique and where you have the amenities and the terracing, where you can actually step outside onto your balcony, where you can get to know your neighbors, where you feel that intimate setting of coming home. And that is really where you see a second luxury market. You see a market that really caters to the home owner, the end user, and it's an everlasting value to have. Because something like that will always be in demand, and there's so little of it. And Kara, like you said, it's very hard. There's nowhere you can duplicate Forest Hill again. No. There's only Forest Hill, there's one Forest Hill which is built, and now you have 2 Forest Hill Road, and that's it.
And I think to that point, we're seeing over the last few years, the boutique buildings are going up substantially in value, and there's a big demand because exactly what you said, people want intimacy. They want to know their neighbors.
The experience.
The experience of it all. And I think, that's been such a unique factor because there really is no luxury mid-rise building with everything that we're offering here at Forest Hill Private Residences in the marketplace. And I think that's why, there's been so much success around this project is because we really thought of every little thing. Not just amenities, not just services, but suite design, having unique suite designs, no one suite is the same. I think that's very important now in the market and seeing that in boutique buildings.
Absolutely, making it unique makes it so desirable. And that's what makes it everlasting value. The fact is, there are only a couple neighborhoods that are luxury in Toronto, from Rosedale to maybe Yorkville being already dense as it is, and Forest Hill. And being so close to downtown, yet having that luxury neighborhood, and yet being a boutique, and then being so unique, makes the price almost irrelevant, I would say. That at the end of the day, this is value that continues for a lifetime because it cannot be duplicated. It's like that signed Picasso, right? It's unique, it's one of a kind. And down the road, anybody who wants to live in Forest Hill or lives in Forest Hill or wants to live in a boutique building like this, they're gonna have to come to this building and there will be only a limited supply of units. This value is with you for a lifetime.
And I say that all the time, and I mean, you've heard me say it, that I truly believe that this building on a resale market, once it's built and closed, there's gonna be a wait list. There's gonna be people who are gonna wanna come into this building, and because it's boutique, because there's not a lot of units, everything is unique, there's gonna be a wait list to come here because exactly what you said, there really is no other offering in the market in general, never mind in Forest Hill and having a 2 Forest Hill address. And I wanna touch on, speaking to coming home but being close to the core, because I think that's really important. People want convenience. They want to be close to restaurants, they want to be close to shops, but when they come home, they want to be at home. And that's what makes Forest Hill neighborhood so unique, is because when you're in the neighborhood, you don't feel like you're in the city.
Oh, you can breathe.
5-minute drive, and you're in Yorkville. You're easy highway, easy to get to restaurants. And I think that's so important because there's very few neighborhoods in the city that allow for that.
Yeah, and I think also to that is the transition. You look at Dunvegan, you look at Forest Hill Road, and average home prices there are in the tens of millions of dollars, and there's literally no stock in less than that. And you're saying, okay, what is the price? What is that bridge? And all of a sudden it's okay. So the next step is, after I have my big home, it's to move into a luxury condo.
And for a lot of people who want to upsize, maybe that they want something, that they want a larger space, they don't necessarily want a home. This is where they're going to want to go. And they want to be in a building that has the amenities and the services that we have, but in a neighborhood where they might not actually be able to afford a $10 million home. So this is kind of their gateway entrance in. And when I think we talk about Forest Hill neighborhood and what makes it so unique, we talk about pricing as well. And where does that relay in the marketplace? In February, luxury sales were up 15%. They made up 15% of the sales in the city. So we're seeing the demand there. And when you compare, other neighborhoods, so now we see the GTA in general is an average of over $1,000 a square foot. You see downtown core is averaging about $1,800 plus a square foot. And then you have Yorkville that's averaging $2,400 plus a square foot. We really, if you look at this, if Yorkville and if downtown core is at $1,800 plus a square foot, then we know that Forest Hill neighborhood should be closer to $3,000 a square foot.
Absolutely.
Given its location.
In terms of the value, for sure. And then you see just in terms of where the pricing of the city of Toronto is going, just in terms of any real estate is increasing, you would see that the value that you're getting in terms of a luxury purchase as opposed to someone who's buying in the outskirts, but they're already paying the mid-thousands, then you really do understand the immense value that you're getting selling a luxury project, specifically Forest Hill private residences. You really need to look at the services and the amenities and what the building has to offer, not just the location. And when you compare the pricing of a luxury project, we're obviously going to be talking about Forest Hill private residences in relation to everything else that's out there, you understand that it's kind of you're teetering the scale where Forest Hill private residences in terms of the services and the experience is weighing it much more.
And long-term value there as well, right? As prices go up, there's going to be more demand. And I was reading something that January was the most sales we've had in almost 20 years. And the benchmark price for pre-construction is $1,150,000. I mean, that's a big number. And that's taking into consideration the entire GTA.
Absolutely.
So if you look at that and you look at that as an average price right now in January of pre-construction, I mean, we already know what's going to continue growing. And look at Forest Hill. I think that just to what you said is there's that value proposition.
But let's talk about why it's sustainable for a moment. We talk about pricing across the city and you've seen crazy prices increase. But if you ask me as a developer who's constantly betting on this market, I see Toronto as an extremely well-positioned city and a great place to live with great economic health. There's also this concept of the fact that the city can only build so much. The supply is constrained. So if someone says, is the price here to stay? I think the price is here to stay forever and to continue onwards. I mean, just going back to international cities, we're still below the international cities, and when you price in the exchange rate, we're far below international cities like Tokyo, London, New York, and Miami. Yet, when people think of major cities today, Toronto's right up there with all the other major cities in this world. So, in terms of where we are and where we could go with this market, I think there's a lot of room to go. I think everyone's always shocked about how this market just doesn't stop going, but that's because we have a lot to catch up. And our fundamentals are good. Our supply is constrained. We can only have so much supply. The city is booming. There's immigration, and we can go on and on. But I think if you ask me, where does this market go? This market just keeps going for a lot longer because we are nowhere near international standards and we are nowhere near where we should be and where we need to be given that supply-demand curve.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about the pricing of other luxury markets or even outwhere throughout the city, and we're seeing it in Toronto right now in the mid-thousands, and you look at a luxury project, there is the underlying asset value that's there that is continuing to grow in relation to the rest of the city. And I think, we've seen a consistent growth over the last couple of years. I mean, there usually is a 6% year-over-year increase in real estate. That's obviously been blown out of the water over the last couple of years. And we do see that with the immigration, as you were talking about, with the immigration and Toronto continuing to build up its world-class city nature and getting to that stature of being a world-class city. That just means that people are gonna wanna come and live here, which means that the real estate's gonna continue to grow. So just as much as all real estate grows, luxury real estate grows with it. And even when there's that difference in pricing, you see it growing just as fast as the rest of real estate.
And I think for a lot of people as a value proposition as well is that you're in a neighborhood that there's almost a safety net, so to say, because you have homes all around you that are 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. So if things were to correct, and you always hear, I've been hearing about it since I moved to Toronto, the bubble, but we know that we're gonna continue to grow. But if anything was ever to correct, a neighborhood like Forest Hill
is insulated.
Exactly.
It's insulated.
It's not going to be affected.
Real estate has this way of correcting all faults over time, right? And I think you're right. You're ticking on it. When you hit it the right location, the right spot, that definitely does happen, right? Where the real estate will just continue to increase in value, given its location, given its uniqueness, and given the fact that Toronto has a long ways to go. It's funny, we almost is saying Toronto was asleep at the wheel in a way. Yeah, we were building,
agreed.
But nowhere near enough for how fast we were growing and where we were going. And we try and fix that as much as we can. But everyone talks about affordable housing as a problem, and affordable housing is a problem in Toronto because Toronto is such a good place to live that the home prices are so high. I think affordable housing will be a problem forever in Toronto, just like it's a problem forever in New York, right? It never is going to go away because Toronto is a very expensive city. It's going to become even more luxurious, especially with the aging boomer demographic. The world's maturing, and now Toronto's maturing, but now where our grandparents maybe have lived in homes and they had much more places to breathe, Toronto has become more dense. And that booming and aging boomer generation now has less places where they can age as well. And that's creating a whole new demographic as well. So we're seeing Toronto grow. We're seeing Toronto grow in many different respects, and we have a long ways to go.
When we talk about pre-construction in Toronto, I think over the last few years, we've really seen a lot more end users that are understanding that getting into pre-construction is actually very valuable for them. It gives them time to figure out selling their home or the mortgage, right, for someone who's maybe entering into the market. And it's funny because we talk about how Toronto's always catching up. And if you look at the luxury market as a great example in Miami, the condos there pre-construction are selling out in pre-construction. You're buying before the building's built. You're buying before there's even a crane at the site. And I think, you look at our city, we have the most cranes in all of North America right now. And we're finally starting to see that buyers are understanding that buying pre-construction actually is the right move because it gives you time. It gives you time, and as the building is built, the value of your purchase goes up, the value of your home goes up, and I think that's a really unique factor that pre-construction provides for a lot of people, and we're slowly starting to see that transition now in the marketplace.
I agree, and I think when you hit the nail on the head, if you Google anything in terms of Toronto, and even if you drive on the Gardner, you see cranes everywhere. There is zero question about the level of development that's happening in the city. And when you look at a mid-tier project and you see developers in terms of pre-construction, most of it is a lot of investors or end users buy because of deposits. When you're looking at luxury pre-con, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about it gives them time to be able to sell their home, and while they understand that while they have that time to sell their home, that while the pre-construction unit that they purchase is going up in value, so is their home. So it gives them that time to transition. Maybe if they're not ready for the condo life, it gives them that time to be able to mentally be prepared for it because it is a big shift, and be able to understand what that shift is going to be for their new life.
Going back to what you said about Miami, it's very interesting. Miami does have a luxury pre-construction mindset. I know lots of people who bought in Estates at Aquilina, Chateau Fendi, the Aston Martin building, the Porsche building, the Waldorf Astoria. These are all luxury buildings, yet they brought them pre-construction because the mindset is there. And that is their understanding that they're buying in something that's increasing in value, that they can also customize, and they can also make somewhat their own. And that gives them the time also to understand what interior design they want, what packages they want. And that mindset exists in Florida, exists in the luxury space. Pre-construction condos does exist in Toronto in many respects, but the luxury pre-construction mindset is starting to change, and you're starting to see that with the new buildings coming in that are selling pre-construction, and luxury pre-construction buying is starting to take place.
And I think to what you said, and I want to touch on it, is it's a very emotional decision.
It really is.
Go from a home, especially into a condo, it's very emotional.
Absolutely.
And it allows a purchaser or a buyer time to say, okay, what am I going to do with this antique dresser or this, couch that I've had for years and it's come down the family line and probably won't fit in the condo. So what am I going to do with it? And it gives them a few years, to figure out those choices. And I think
that's to get used to the fact that maybe it's time for the dresser to go. Right? I've seen that quite a bit.
They need a few years for that.
Maybe on the wife's end, it's about buying new furniture, but you know how the husbands are.
They don't want to change anything. A lot of buyers saying they want the dining room table to come into the condo that they've had in the family for quite some time, and then finally saying, you know what, maybe it's time that the dining room table goes to our son or daughter's home instead.
Yeah,
right?
And I think it gives them time to think about all those different things. Well, their unit's going up in value, their home is going up in value, so everything aligns nicely. Yeah. And I think we're seeing more and more people understand that this is truly the best way to go about it because you have the time for, again, the value to go up, but the time to emotionally prepare for that next transition in your lifestyle.
Yeah, I think the timing is the most important thing to it because it is a big decision. When you're coming from a house and you're downsizing, or whether you're starting a family and you're buying a pre-con condo, it is a different shift of lifestyle. As we talked about before, in terms of doing things that a little bit more, that allows you to do things that will make you happy or things that you want to focus on. You need time to switch that. Nothing happens overnight. We understand that. We keep talking about Toronto getting to there, and you're right. There are areas like Miami. There is everywhere throughout the States. There is New York. There's pre-con luxury lives out there, and we always need to just catch up to it. And I think we are getting there with amongst the other things that Toronto is getting to. But I really think that mindset is coming here because we're starting to adopt that sense of States mentality, where obviously you can see our downtown core is increasing very, very heavily in terms of price per square foot. You see it on the outskirts, it's increasing, but obviously not as high as the downtown. And people are able or might have to move outside the city. You see that in areas like New York, for example, right? You see those areas in Miami, South Beach. So we really are getting there. And I think that pre-construction timeline for a mid-rise building specifically, it's obviously a little bit less than it would be for a high-rise, which is advantageous for anyone looking for that type of luxury project, right? I think it really just allows that time that is much needed. It really, really is. It allows us to as developers, establish a relationship with these purchasers, talking about where their lights are going, what type of countertop they want. They really are emotional decisions. And there's one thing, and I've always said this, there's one thing that you can never buy or buy back, and it's time, and that time is worth everything.
Yeah, and also on the economic side of it is that when you have those years where you're spacing out your deposits, you have very little money in the game, yet your asset that you're holding is growing in value so much more, especially a luxury asset where it can go much higher than that of a typical condo. If the typical condo trajectory moves $50 a square foot, you can see a luxury condo move $150 a square foot. And you only have that much in deposits in. The 10 to 20% that you have over the course of those couple of years can grow exponentially.
And I mean, we just spoke about supply earlier, and to that point there is a very limited supply of luxury real estate in the Toronto market, never mind boutique luxury real estate. And I think to your point, you're just gonna see those prices continue to grow because we're already seeing the demand increase for it, and we know we're gonna continue to see that demand increase substantially.
And we're seeing also a lot of executive rentals too. We're seeing executives come from major corporations that are starting to headquarters in Toronto or create offices in Toronto, and they need a place to live for a couple of years, and they have sky's the limit on the rent. And what happens is they come in and they rent these units for their executives to live for the year or 2 years. And many executives, they need a break. They're working downtown, the hustle and the bustle downtown. They need a condo, that's a require. And looking at those boutique buildings where they can make these executives and their families happy in the interim, whether they are the CEO, CFO, or CIO of any company that's now stationed in Toronto for a bunch of years. That makes the luxury rental market very interesting and a new game changer in Toronto. New York and Miami have luxury rental markets that I can tell you from firsthand is very expensive and blows us out. And now Toronto is starting to see those numbers again, those crazy numbers that you're starting to see in rental.
And I think to your point is that the luxury rentals that we have right now are all mostly downtown core based. There's really nothing outside the core. And if you're someone who's at work all day, a lot of these executives come with their families. They want to be close to good school zones, private schools. So there's really not a lot of options. And we see that as it's going to continue to grow, and there's going to be more demand because we're seeing more and more large corporations coming to Toronto. But there really is no luxury executive rentals outside of high-rise in the downtown core.
You're especially starting to see this with the movie production industry starting to take off again in Toronto, and there are studios being built ad hoc over here, and what you see is a huge amount of wealthy people coming into Toronto, whether it be actors, actresses, producers, or whatnot. And that is really bringing in international business as well as people that only need to be here for a defined period of time. It'll be 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. Right? And that's something that we're starting to see come in more and more.
And they want somewhere private. When we're seeing actors, producers, they don't want to be in the hustle and bustle. They go to their set and they want somewhere private. And I think, again, that's kind of where Forest Hill Private Residences really truly is unique from a buyer standpoint on all different angles. And let's talk about luxury must-haves, amenities being the number one.
Yeah, so I think when you think about what makes a project different, obviously the one thing that about it is the amenities, the theme of the building and what have you. When you're talking about from a luxury aspect, you're more so looking about what is available to you. So not necessarily, you know, in a luxury project, I don't think a lot of people are looking for guest suites. They're not looking for, you know, a squash court, or they're not looking for any of those things. They're looking for things for the finer things of life. Something along the lines of a state-of-the-art gym with specific equipment, whether it be a Pilates bed, I'm not even sure what it is because I don't work out, Pilates performer, or you know the various machines like an elliptical or what have you. Looking at the party room, when you're the setting of it, looking in terms of the scale of everything, really about the experience of what an amenity brings you. Not only that, but I think what you look at as soon as you come into a luxury is what you see when you first walk in the door. So the lobby is the most important thing when you look at, because that is the first impression that anyone gets when they first walk into a building. So looking at the grandeur scale of things, what do you see when it's available? What's available
I agree with
for
you.
you there?
Every time you walk into a luxury 5-star hotel, it's always the lobby.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you
Always.
walk into the lobby, it sets the mood for the rest of the
Absolutely.
stay, right?
You either feel good or you feel bad. And when
Yeah.
you're walking into something like that, you want the experience to
And
be
when
great.
you roll in and all of a sudden the bellman comes and opens your door, that right there, that sets the mood for the rest of the trip.
And it goes not as far as just the design and the beauty of the lobby, but even the smell of the lobby.
Absolutely.
I mean, we talked about this. The smell when you walk into certain 5-star hotels, it sets the tone for that stay.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important in luxury, because that is what, you know, someone's looking for, is they want that feeling of calm, that feeling of coming home and restfulness.
Yeah, and then, you know, we'll get into the services later, but you want someone to say, good evening, Mr. Mandelbaum, welcome home. You know, it's about those things. It's really about the experience, and it's about the feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, every hotel is like that. You come in, the best thing is I don't have to take anything out of my trunk, right? My car's taken for me, my car's up when I want it, and there's a lobby where I can sit in serenity and just feel good, right? So that lobby is very good. Also, having a dual lobby is really good, where you have one lobby where it's the serenity, but much like a hotel, there's a secondary lobby where the noise is, where all the deliveries are. Because the last thing you want to do is fight with the pizza guy to open up the door, right? Who gets to go in first when he greets a bellman, right? But rather to say, okay, this entrance over here is a Rego. This entrance over here is for the residents. And yet having a completely separate entrance that deals with all the packages and deliveries and whatnot. That right away coming in, the door opening for me, coming for me, is really an amazing feeling. That really sets the tone.
Agreed. And I think going, you know, expanding into party room, you spoke about a party room, not just a typical party room where, you know, you can, a little lounge area, a table. We have a full caterer's kitchen, having a dining table that can fit the family. You know, I think we've spoken about this so many times, and I've spoken to buyers about it, is the concern of coming from their home and how will they entertain their family? How will they do their dinners and their dinner parties with their guests? And I think having amenities that become, you know, an expanded part of your home is very important in a building like this.
And it's about the layout. So we talk about the party room. Obviously, you know, a lot of party rooms throughout the city of Toronto, they have kitchens. But it's about, when you're looking at luxury, you don't necessarily want to see the stove. You don't want to see when someone's warming something. Going that extra step and doing something that's off to the side, right? I always say that it's about the little things. It's always about the little things, and I think when it comes to luxury, the little things are the most important thing.
Absolutely. To your point, you don't want to see, you know, all the clutter coming up while you're having an event. You want it to be in the background, almost as if the waiters and the waitresses that come in to serve are just part of the background and blend in.
Almost like something comes out and you're like, where'd that come from? Like it's those small things that it's the experience around where you feel about that. It also goes into the services, you know. There isn't too many buildings in the city of Toronto, and that I'm really aware of, that have a level of hotel-like service in a condominium building. And I think that's extremely unique, right? You know, you think about going to a spa, right? And you go to the pool, the indoor pool. One of the things that's always there is you have water, you have a towel service, right? But do you have that in a condominium building? It's the little things. It really is the little things.
Having towel service by the pool, in the gym, having a towel that is freshly scented, having water they're waiting for you. Those are things, coffee when you first arrive. Absolutely. Even a sommelier and a wine cellar with wine that's already stocked that can send up any bottle at cost to your suite with whatever you're having that night. That's a service you don't typically see only in that of a hotel, right?
And I think that's what makes it unique, especially when buyers are looking for a boutique building, and now you have all those lifestyle amenities and services that usually you can't find unless you're going into a hotel residence, where a lot of people don't want to be in a high-rise hotel residence. And to that point too, we talk about it's all about the way you feel and also privacy. A lot of people are very private. When you use the gym, they don't necessarily want to go into a gym with a bunch of other residents. So to have, private training rooms where you can come with your personal trainer, your Pilates reformer bed, you can close the door and it can be private. Or when it's not busy, it's open and the space feels a lot more open. There's so many options, and thinking about, like you said, those little things truly is what matters in a building like this.
We touched upon this earlier, and I think what we're all looking for is to spend more time doing things that we enjoy. So, I don't have a dog, but I know both of you guys have a dog. Having a service, and some of us, you have 3 dogs. Having a service where someone can walk your dog for you. Having a service where you're in a condo, you don't want to lug up all your groceries. You can leave your car at the valet, you can go get a coffee in the lobby, and by the time you get up to your suite, your groceries are in your suite. You travel a lot, you have a second home in Florida or what have you, and you want to bring one of your cars down, being able to ship your car down with you. Not having to go elsewhere to find those services, it's just efficient, and it makes you not have to worry. It's like an ease style of living.
But I think also to that point is when you have guests coming to visit as well, that they get to enjoy those services of the valet taking their car, sitting in the lobby, being able to have coffee service while they wait to go up to the suite. It's that setting that tone, like you mentioned, as soon as you walk in. I think that's so important, not just for the residents, but also for when their guests come to visit as well.
And also having the steam room, the sauna, the pool. Many boutique buildings, they call themselves boutique, but they're missing some of the basic amenities, right? Having a steam room, having a sauna, having a pool, having a tranquility area. These are things that, you really want when you're living in a condo. And being a boutique, all of a sudden, I have to give up my steam room or my sauna or my pool. No, you don't have to, right? And also one of the things that I love about this building in particular is the high ceilings that come with those amenities. One of the things we really wanted to do was to make sure that it's not crowded. That when you're in the steam room, the sauna, the pool, the gym, the party room, you still have those high ceilings. And boutique should never be synonymous with low ceilings, no, right? And that is something that you have here. And that is something that's very important in the must-haves of luxury, is having all the amenities and the services together. You have to have the complete package to be a true luxury.
Yeah. And I think when you're looking at it in terms of, obviously we all know that development in the city of Toronto is rampant, and if, as in a smaller building, that means that the requirement for amenities is a little bit less. If we look at Forest Hill private residences and the amount of amenity that we are providing, given the amount of units, and I think it's important the fact that, to look at it when you look at a luxury projects, to see what are the things that are offered in the building that you're looking for. What are the services that they have? What are the amenities that they have? How much space did they use? Is it confined? Am I comfortable in those spaces? And when you look at Forest Hill private residences, I always say it's the little things, and it's each of those little things that you look at in terms of each of the way we design the amenities.
Even the exterior, going with the limestone and the granite.
Absolutely.
And the idea that this is a landmark, right? It's not just the services, not just the amenities, it's not just the amazing things that comes with a building like this, it's also the landmark, that this is a landmark building, right? Much like other buildings that you're gonna see in certain cities that are always known as those landmark buildings, Forest Hill has all those makings to be that landmark. And when you're building a landmark, you only get to do it once. So if you're gonna do it once, you gotta do it right.
And I think to that point, I was going to say this, Forest Hill private residences, in my opinion, is truly going to set the bar for luxury in the market of Toronto.
Yeah, and I think, you hit the nail on the head. You do it once. We're here today, God willing, we're going to live for 2,000 years, but this building is going to be here forever to come, in perpetuity. And it's exciting to know to be a part of such a development of this caliber and being a part of a staple in a community, but also knowing that a building is going to stand the test of time is something that is important to me specifically. I know, Zev, it's really important to you as well.
Yeah, that's why we chose timeless materials. Our materials are very much timeless. Yet you don't see a lot of exterior limestone buildings in the city of Toronto, right? But keeping it timeless, keeping it present, keeping it value forever was our mantra over here, right? Keeping this thing going, that this building will remain unique, remain the landmark that it is, and carry its value for a lifetime.
We really embodied everything of what Forest Hill private residence is and how that is bringing home to everyone there.
Zev, Jordan, thank you for joining me this evening to talk about the Toronto luxury market. It's been absolutely great to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having us, Kara. And like an economist one time said, Manhattan was overpriced 50 years ago, it was overpriced 20 years ago, it's overpriced today, and it will probably be overpriced forevermore. And I think that's where Toronto's boutique luxury market is going. It's going to be forevermore increasing in value.